Let me tell you something real, something most people won't say out loud. There will be seasons in your life where you're what? No applause, no backup, just you. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Because when you're chasing something real, your growth, your purpose, your peace is not meant to be crowded. The road to greatness is narrow. The distractions are many, and most people aren't built for the climb. To grow into your highest self, you often have to separate from the familiar, even when it's painful. There's this myth we're sold that elevation always looks beautiful, that becoming your best self is all about glow-ups and motivational quotes. But the truth is, growth is raw. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely. Because when you start changing, you disrupt the comfort zones of everyone around you, including yourself. Not everyone will be happy about your evolution. Some people will feel threatened by your discipline, your hunger, your refusal to settle. Others will say you've changed as if that's a bad thing. And you have changed. You're supposed to. You're growing into someone who refuses to stay stagnant, someone who is chasing clarity, purpose, peace, and power. That's not an easy road. It's not supposed to be. There will come a time when you feel like you're walking through life with no support, no validation, no one cheering you on. That's when most people start second-guessing themselves. But that's exactly when you need to dig in the deepest. That's the test. That's silence. That isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the part where you learn to stand on your own, to back yourself fully. No safety net, no crowd, just conviction. And yes, it hurts. It hurts to let go of people you thought were forever. It hurts to watch your circle shrink as your standards rise. But what hurts more is staying small just to keep people comfortable. What hurts more is betraying your potential to fit into places you've already outgrown. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're better than anyone. This is about refusing to settle for relationships that require you to be less than who you truly are. This is about walking away from environments that no longer serve your mission. Growth isn't about becoming someone else, it's about stripping away all the noise, all the expectations, all the false identities until you're left with what's real. And real growth rarely happens in a crowd. Standing alone is not a weakness. It's a strength most people don't have. Because it takes guts to walk alone when you don't know when or if the right people will show up. It takes faith. It takes vision. It takes a deep trust that what you're building inside is worth more than temporary companionship. And it is. You have to stop looking for external confirmation that you're on the right path. If your heart is aligned, if your values are intact, if your effort is consistent, you are already doing the right thing. The right people, the real ones, the ones who see you and support you without needing you to compromise, they will find you. But they will only recognize you when you are standing in your truth, not hiding behind the mask you wore to keep others around. The world doesn't need more people fitting in. It needs more people standing up. People who are unapologetically themselves. People who walk alone not because they want to, but because they're unwilling to settle for anything less than authentic alignment. So stand tall in your season of isolation. It's not the end. It's the foundation. It's the fire that forges your strength. Because the version of you comes out the other side, unstoppable. And when the right people show up, they won't be looking to fix you. They'll be looking to build with you. But first, you must stand alone. When you decide to raise your standards, really raise them, not everyone will celebrate you for it. In fact, the first thing that happens is people start falling away. And that's when it hits you. Some relationships, some connections, some environments were only held together by your willingness to settle. When you stop doing that, when you start holding yourself to a higher level of discipline, focus, and truth, it makes people uncomfortable. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your elevation shines a light on their stagnation. People will question you. They'll say you're being too picky, too intense, too serious. They'll try to convince you to lower the bar again, to be more realistic, to just go with the flow like everyone else. But if you've ever tasted purpose, if you've ever had a vision so strong it kept you up at night, you know you can't go back. You can't keep compromising just to keep the peace. You can't keep playing small to make others feel big. This is where things get tough. Because when you decide to live by your standards, not just talk about them, but really live them, it costs you. It costs you comfort. It costs you company. It costs you the illusion that everyone is meant to go with you. But what it gives you in return is clarity, strength, self-respect. It gives you the space to become someone who no longer needs to rely on external approval to feel whole. Here's the truth. The wrong people will leave your life when you stop lowering your standards to keep them in it. And that's exactly what needs to happen. You can't invite the right people into your life if the space is still occupied by those who only see you for who you were, not who you're becoming. You don't owe anyone access to you at the cost of your peace, your values, or your growth. Your standards are not the problem. Your boundaries are not too much. In fact, they're a filter, a way of protecting your energy, your time, your potential. The people who are meant for you won't see your standards as walls. They'll see them as foundations. Because real ones don't want to get by on minimum effort. They're not intimidated by your ambition. They're inspired by it. They don't ask you to be less. They show up as more. So you have to get comfortable with the discomfort that comes with this transformation. You have to be okay with being misunderstood, with being alone for a while, with watching people drift away as you step fully into your power. Let them go. If someone can't handle your growth, they were never built to grow with you. And you were never meant to carry dead weight on a journey that demands strength. Every time you say no to something that doesn't meet your standard, you're saying yes to something better. It may not show up right away. The silence might feel deafening. The wait might test your patience. But don't let temporary loneliness make you settle for permanent regret. Keep your bar high. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep proving that your peace, your purpose, and your future matter more than fitting in with people who never saw your worth. Because here's the truth. The people who are meant for you, the ones who align with your energy, your vision, your level of effort, they will never ask you to lower your standards just to be loved. They'll meet you where you are. But they can only do that once you stop pretending you're someone you're not just to keep people around. So hold the line, stay grounded in who you are. Let your standards be your signal. The real ones will hear it. And when they show up, you'll be glad you didn't settle. Loneliness isn't always a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign that you're finally doing something right. When you step into a season of growth, when you start focusing on yourself, your healing, your goals, and your standards, the world around you shifts. People you thought would be there forever start to fade. Conversations feel different. The places that once gave you comfort now feel too small. That's not a breakdown, that's alignment. We live in a world that glorifies being surrounded, being seen, being liked, being connected. But sometimes the most powerful move you can make is disconnecting from noise, from distraction, from people who no longer match your energy. Because you can't become who you're meant to be while staying in environments that only nurture who you used to be. There's a sacred kind of solitude that comes with realignment. It's not about isolating yourself out of bitterness or fear. It's about creating space for truth to surface. When you're surrounded by too many opinions, too many energies, too many distractions, you lose sight of your own voice. You start living based on reactions instead of intention. And that's why loneliness, while uncomfortable, is necessary. It's in the silence that you rediscover your why. It's in the quiet moments that your vision becomes clear. Most people avoid this space They stay busy. They stay distracted. They surround themselves with noise because silence is confronting. It reveals all the things they've been ignoring. But if you're willing to stay with it, to sit in that space and face whatever comes up, you'll begin to see what really matters. You'll notice the relationships that were built on convenience instead of connection. You'll see how many things you were saying yes to just to avoid being alone. And most importantly, you'll find yourself, this season of being alone isn't about punishment, it's about purification. You're shedding everything that's been weighing you down so you can rise lighter, freer, and clearer. It's a reset. It's your chance to recalibrate your boundaries, your energy, your standards. You get to decide who has access to you. You get to decide what your life will look like moving forward. And yes, there are nights it will feel heavy. There are mornings it will feel like no one gets it. You scroll through your phone and feel the urge to reach out to someone, just to fill the silence. You'll question if you made the right choice, if walking away, letting go, or distancing yourself was really necessary. But then you'll remember why you started. You'll remember the version of you who was exhausted from people pleasing, who felt drained by superficial connections, who was tired of constantly lowering their standards just to belong. You're not in this space because you're broken. You're here because you're healing. You're choosing depth over distractions. You're learning to love your own company. And when you can sit with yourself, when you can be alone and still feel whole, that's when you've tapped into real power. That's when you stop needing validation to feel valuable. Eventually, the right people will show up. The kind of people who speak your language, who move with the same integrity, who respect your time and mirror your effort, but they'll only find you when you're being fully you. Not the masked, watered-down version that was trying to fit in, but the raw, real, resilient version that came out of the fire. So don't run from this season. Embrace it, use it. Let it shape you, because loneliness isn't a weakness. It's a passage, a rite of transformation. And when you come out the other side, you won't be desperate for company. You'll be ready for connection. The kind that doesn't ask you to shrink, to fake it, or to settle. The right people will never ask you to shrink yourself. They won't ask you to quiet your voice, hide your ambition, or make yourself smaller just to make them feel more comfortable. When you start to rise, when you begin to step fully into your potential, your truth, your power, the people who are truly meant for you will rise with you. They won't be intimidated by your growth. They'll be inspired by it. They won't see your standards as threats. They'll see them as reflections of their own. But before those people arrive, you'll encounter many who do ask you to shrink. They might not say it outright, but their actions will. They'll flinch at your confidence. They'll roll their eyes when you talk about your dreams. They'll tell you to be realistic, to slow down, to stop doing the most. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe them. You'll start to dim your light just a little, bite your tongue just a little, laugh at jokes that don't sit right, and tolerate energy that doesn't match yours, all to keep the peace. But what kind of peace is that really? Is it peace if it costs you your truth? Is it connection if you have to hide your heart to keep it? The answer is no. That's not peace. That's survival. And you weren't born to survive your life, you were born to live it, fully and boldly. You were meant to take up space, to speak your truth, to own your path without apology. The people who belong in your life will never ask you to dim your light to make theirs shine brighter. Real ones don't compete with you, they walk beside you. They celebrate your wins like they're their own. They challenge you, yes, but not from a place of insecurity. They challenge you because they believe in your potential and they want to see you reach it. You'll never have to explain your ambition to them because they have their own. You won't have to shrink to be loved because they know how to love someone who's still expanding. So if you're in a season where you feel misunderstood, where the people around you are uncomfortable with your growth, that's okay. That's part of the process. It's a signal that you're outgrowing a version of yourself and outgrowing people who are only ever aligned with that old version. Let them go. Let them misunderstand you. Let them distance themselves. That space they leave behind will be filled by people who see you, really see you, and still choose to stay. You don't need to beg to be seen. You don't need to chase people who can't hold your truth. And you definitely don't need to play small just to fit into rooms that were never built for your greatness. Every time you shrink, you send a message to the universe that your light is negotiable. But every time you stand tall, especially when it's uncomfortable, you affirm that you're ready for real alignment, not temporary approval. It takes courage to be your full self in a world that constantly pressures you to edit who you are. But that courage is magnetic. When you stand in your authenticity, you naturally repel what's not meant for you and attract what is. The right people will come, and when they do, you won't have to question if you're too much. You'll realize you were never too much, you were just around people who weren't enough for what you bring. So shine, speak, rise, take up space. The ones who matter won't just allow it, they'll demand it. Because the right people never need you to be less. They love you because you are more. There's a kind of strength that only comes from being alone. Not the kind of loneliness that leaves you feeling empty, but the kind that forces you to find your own fire. When you're standing in a space where no one's clapping, where there's no applause, no audience, no one pushing you forward, that's when the real work begins. That's when you find out who you really are. Temporary isolation has the power to create long-term strength, but only if you're willing to lean into it. Most people fear solitude. They fear the silence, the absence of connection, the stillness of being without a support system. But if you've ever been in that space, you know it can be one of the most transformative seasons of your life. Because when there's no one else to depend on, you begin to depend on yourself. You stop looking outward for permission, for direction, for comfort. And you begin to turn inward. You begin to listen to your own voice. You start to realize that everything you thought you needed from others, you've had it inside you all along. This kind of solitude strips away all the noise. It takes away the opinions, the expectations, the constant pull of outside influence. At first it's jarring. You'll feel unsure. You'll wonder if you're doing the right thing. You'll look around and feel like you're the only one walking this road. But with time, you'll start to notice something powerful. You're becoming unshakable. You're learning how to keep showing up even when no one's watching. You're learning how to stay committed to your goals, your growth, your healing, not because someone's holding you accountable, but because you've developed the discipline to hold yourself accountable. That's strength. That's real power. When you stop needing applause to keep moving. When you keep the promises you make to yourself. When your integrity becomes stronger than your insecurity. That kind of strength doesn't come from being surrounded. It comes from being stripped down to your core and realizing you can still stand tall. And what happens next is something most people don't expect. When you become strong in your solitude, your energy changes. You move differently. You speak with conviction. You walk with purpose. People can feel that. They see the difference. And suddenly the ones who once overlooked you start to pay attention. But more importantly, the right people begin to show up, the ones who recognize your value without needing to be convinced. The ones who don't want to fix you, change you, or shrink you, but walk beside you because they respect who you become. But they wouldn't have found you if you didn't take that time to build yourself. They wouldn't recognize your strength if you hadn't cultivated it through that lonely season. That's the gift of isolation. It gives you the time and space to grow roots so that when the wind comes, when life tests you, when the pressure rises, you don't break. You bend, you adapt, you endure. So don't fear being alone. Don't rush to fill that space with noise, people, or distractions just to avoid feeling the discomfort. Let it shape you. Let it build you. Because the version of you that emerges on the other side will carry a kind of power no one can take away. You'll no longer need external validation to feel worthy. You'll know your worth because you earned it in the dark when no one was watching and you kept going anyway. When you stand in your truth fully, unapologetically, and consistently, you create clarity, not just for yourself, but for the world around you. That kind of clarity acts like a signal. It's not always loud, but it's unmistakable. It's the energy that says, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is what I no longer accept. The right people are the ones who are aligned with your values, your pace, your depth. They recognize that signal. But they can only respond to it once you stop muting who you are to fit in with who you're not. A lot of people never find their tribe, not because the right people aren't out there, but because they're sending out a distorted frequency. They're performing. They're adapting. They're shape-shifting into what they think will be accepted. But here's the problem with that. When you wear a mask, the people who show up are attracted to the mask, not you. And eventually, that version of you becomes exhausting to maintain. It creates tension. It creates disconnection. Because deep down, you're not being seen, you're just being tolerated. Clarity eliminates all that. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's about knowing who you are and standing in it, even when it costs you attention or approval. Especially then. Because the moment you stop performing for people who don't get you, you make space for the people who do. But it takes courage. It takes walking away from comfort. It takes risking the silence. You have to trust that what's real will only come when you're being real. And sometimes that means being misunderstood. It means having seasons where it feels like no one's calling, no one's checking in, no one's really seeing you. But that's part of filter. That silence is the separation. It's life pulling away what's misaligned so it can make room for what's to the. If you rush to fill that gap with more noise, more surface level connections, more distractions, you'll miss the beauty of what's trying to find you. The right people can't meet a version of you that isn't rooted. They can't connect with you if you're still blending in, still trying to be everything for everyone. That kind of living keeps you diluted. But when you draw a line in the sand and say, this is what I believe, this is how I move, this is what I want from life, things begin to shift. The wrong people fall away, yes, but that's a blessing. You stop wasting energy trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. And you start attracting the kind of people who just get it without needing a long explanation. Clarity is magnetic. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't need to convince. It simply exists in its full truth and allows the right energy to find it. And the beautiful part, once the right people arrive, you'll see why the wait, the solitude, the discomfort, it was all necessary. Because those people, they don't want the watered down version. They want the real you. They want the one who's done the work, who knows who they are, who doesn't apologize for taking up space, setting boundaries, or dreaming big. So if you're in that space where you feel alone, where your clarity seems to be costing you connection, hold the line. It's not the end, it's the beginning of something deeper, something better. Keep showing up as yourself. Keep speaking your truth. Keep honoring what you know you deserve. The right people aren't just out there, they're already looking for the version of that refuses to settle. Let them find you. But first, be found in your own truth.